Hi. Everybody knows me to be a serious person, but I have to say that my personality is that I'm deadpan. So all my life when I say things to people, I say them in a serious way, and people take me seriously and don't laugh. And so I have to be so careful about that because when I think I'm telling a joke, people don't get it, and so I have to be aware of that. I think they look at me. I'm going to be 73 in a few months, and I'm very straight-laced, and my hair back, and you see the kind of
You're not going to be 73.
70. Oh, thanks, Rich. I'm going to be 71 in a few months. Yeah, I had my 70th birthday last March, and I made it to 70. Isn't that wonderful? I celebrate that. But my style is always so serious that when I say things and I have like a mischievous nature to me that people don't know, and then when I say things that I think I'm being funny, they either don't get it or they think I'm serious. So something I always have to watch. Through the years, I think overall I was more quiet and liked to have everybody else do the talking, and I was reserved in my dress and the way I did things, and sometimes I think I should have been born in the previous century because I would have liked to have a bustle back, the long dresses and the feathers in my hair and going to operas and things like that. Which makes me remember that my life with John, how it broadened me. I didn't know what ballet was before I went out with John, and John loved the ballet. So we used to go to ballet, we went to plays, we played different kinds of music. John broadened me politically because I was this naive kid that believed everything I heard on television. And he would tell me different things and say, Betty, we have like 5 or 6 newspapers just in Katerini where I came from. And they're very political people, the Greeks. And I believed everything. I was the most naive person. And I learned a lot. My eyes opened up with being with John. We went places. We went to so many places after we married, especially before we bought our house, because once we bought the house, it was more costly and you think practical, well, you could fix the deck as opposed to taking trips. But our wedding trip was incredible. It was so romantic. I'm going to Greece with a man who was born there, so he knows the language, he knows the people. And he was happy to show me off, and some of the Greek people would say to John in Greek, why you couldn't find a nice Greek girl, and John would say, why does Betty have horns? And then I would say, I'm Italian, we're not so far different from the Greeks. Anyway, John was always proud to be with me, and we saw so many different islands and so many wonderful places in Greece. And then our home base was John's mother and sister, so we would go away for a few days to an island and then come back, and we swam, and I just have the best memories. And the pictures that we took at that day, they were just still pictures, small still pictures, and I look at them all the time now, and they're beautiful, but how much nicer it would be if I had the video at that time, which I guess in 73 we didn't have. When John was in Greece, they insisted that everybody play, all the students have something to play, what do you call it?
Instrument?
Instrument. Oh, thank you, Rich. Because John liked the guitar, but the cheapest one that he could afford, the one that didn't cost as much, was the harmonica. So he used to play the harmonica all the time, and I still have his harmonica there, and I tried blowing into it, and I can't seem to figure it out. But I want to say that I had such a happy life with John, and such a full life. There were so many things that we did, and we traveled a lot of times to Canada. We loved driving to Canada. We would go to different places like Ottawa and Toronto and Montreal and some other places I can't remember. And we had such fun times there. Then after that, John's mother and sister came to America. And I think Xanthoula wanted to stay in Greece. She knew the language. It's not easy at her age with all the friends that she had. And she used to have a little kiosk. Besides being a nurse, she had a little kiosk that she sold cigarettes and magazines and candy. And
And she was ahead of her time in that sense. She's a small, strong woman, very, very healthy, never got sick. And she liked, having her kiosk there and having her friends and speaking the language, and didn't want to come to America. But John's father died the year before we got married. I didn't say that. So John's mother wanted to come to America because she was getting older and she loved her John, and she felt that she wanted to die with John. And knowing that there was a church here, because that was important to her. They were in Turkey and in Russia for a while, and they didn't like to stay in Russia because they closed the churches at that time, and John's mother wanted to have a place to worship. So anyway, she wanted to come here in her later years. She wasn't fearful of flying. She wasn't fearful of the language. None of that. She just loved her son and felt that, there were many years that she wasn't with him. And obviously she loved her daughter-in-law. So they came and they stayed with us. And they came on TWA, which Xanthoula used to call Twa. And she was just a character. I didn't know Greek, they didn't know English, so every night I would have my dictionary and come home and I would hear certain words, because some of our words in English are derived from the Greek, and I would say, oh, that sounds familiar, so that helped me to understand that, and we would have the dictionary out, and I can't say that John helped us. We did this, John was working, and we would talk to one another and say, oh, that's what the word is. So I would learn the Greek, they would learn English. And then Xanthoula would watch television a lot, and she worked as a domestic to the Gardner family in Brookline. They had a big estate, and she would come home. I would come home at night, and she would have the words written down, which didn't sound at all like what I was. She would hear two words and put it together as one, and I would really struggle to figure out what she was trying to say. And so between the two of us, we figured it out, and I would learn in Greek, and she would learn English. So I was able to communicate with John's mother and sister. And they cooked nice foods, and I think they looked at the snow the first time and they thought it was wonderful, but then when they saw how cold it is to go out, and boots, and the winters are so long, I don't think it was fun for them. But John's mother was happy. She had her church. She was here. She was, John, I heard from John later that when they first came, he talked to them separate from me and said, this is Betty's house, and you respect Betty as the head of the house and do things the way she wants to do. And I don't think that conversation would ever have been necessary anyway, because they loved me, and John's mother would go to the bathroom, and she wouldn't flush the toilet if I was sleeping. She would wait for me, and they were quiet, and they were just easy people to live with. But they decided they would like to have their own place, so we got them into the housing for the elderly on South Street in Jamaica Plain, across from St. Thomas Church, and they really enjoyed it there, having their own space, and it was good for John and I too. So Xanthoula and John's mother would go to church. The monastery would pick them up and take them home, and I think they did well there. And then when John's mother died, Niall Albright, Dr. Niall, had taken care of John's mother, and we bought the house, so that would have been 1983. We bought the house. Oh, they were so happy to see the house, and John's mother loved it. There was a garage and a backyard, and they were going to have, a vegetable garden there. And a couple of weeks later, John's mother got sick, and she had some kind of infection, and she died within 3 days. So it was such a bittersweet thing. Maybe a few weeks after we bought the house. No, I'm wrong about that. We moved in on John's birthday, which was August 29th of 1983, and John's mother died in November. So I had boxes and boxes in the living room. I couldn't walk up the stairs with my knee, and we didn't have our family to come and help us to unpack things. And so I would sleep on the couch, and Xanthoula helped us, and she did all the cleaning that I couldn't do.